Welcome back, girly pops and bros. Today is day 2 of the van build, and we're knocking out the subfloor. So it is currently Friday night. I don't have to be back to the office until Monday morning, so that leaves me a long time to build this weekend, which I'm pretty hyped for. However, I'm racing a storm. There's a lot of rain and lightning forecasted for Dallas this weekend, so I'm going to do my best to take advantage of the cooler temperatures, build through the night tonight. Hopefully I don't piss off my neighbors too much, and then fill in the gaps Saturday and Sunday. But what we're using for materials, we're going to do a couple of sheets of 1-inch XPS foam board, a couple of sheets of 1/2-inch Baltic birch ply, and then I'm going to glue that down to the floor of the van as a floating floor using Loctite. So I've done this before in a previous van build. I'm a creature of habit. I'm going to do it again. But it's supposed to be triple digits all weekend, so if I'm sweating my butt off, don't judge me. We need to get to Home Depot to get supplies. I'll see you there. We got our 1/2-inch birch and our 1-inch foam board. Foam board is an R5 rated value, so it'll help with insulation, obviously. Now I gotta find Loctite, which I think is here at the end of this aisle. And here we go. So I'm probably gonna literally buy everything they have, but this is the good stuff right here. It's Loctite PL3 Premium. My bad, guys. I've been home for a while now, but I was trying to take advantage of the sunlight we did have left and realized I left a pretty important step out in this process, which is first and foremost, we need a template, right? So if your van, your Sprinter, Transit, or ProMaster has a factory OEM floor mat, this is super easy for you. Just pull that floor mat out and you're ready to go, right? Trace it on top of your insulation and your plywood, bada boom, bada bang, you're off to cut. Much easier process. I unfortunately didn't get that in my van, so this is a tip I picked up from Leave Jaylena Wild on YouTube and Instagram. Thank you, Jaylena. But it's just Home Depot construction paper and painter's tape. So basically what I did was I just taped this together to make a makeshift template. I traced around all the odd corners and the wheel wells here in the Sprinter, transfer that over to my insulation, and now I'm ready to cut. I haven't done this before. My last van had the OEM floor mat. This honestly was surprisingly pretty easy. But it is dark now, so it's time to whip out the headlamp and get to cutting. Trying to keep it 1/4, 1/8 inch away from all metal to avoid squeaking. This does have a factory mat right here that goes up to the front, obviously. I want to keep this. ideally. So I'm just tucking the wood up underneath there. And I put a piece of wood over here to kind of strengthen it so it didn't just dip right here. But yeah, one thing I did want to point out is the seams here. So the seam for the plywood topper here and the seam for the insulation are not synced, right? So they don't align, and that's on purpose. So this creates more strength and better airflow than if you were to just line up your seams here on the ply and then your seam right there as well on the insulation. So definitely try and stagger the best you can. It doesn't really matter what this looks like, how pretty it is. You can put a trim piece right over this. So that's the plan, but it's in, and that's what's important. Tomorrow I need to run to Home Depot to grab maybe one more sheet of foam board and one more sheet of wood. I have a couple back there, which you can't see, but I think I'm one short. We'll tackle the rest of this subfloor tomorrow and we'll be done with it, but hyped for the progress we got today. Everything sits very flush, very seamless, and this will be a good base. So we'll see you guys in the morning. So what I'm doing is tracing templates around the corners and edges and angles of the van. Plywood underneath, template on top, and then trace around. As you can see, tape it down, like places like this, obviously making my lines correct. And then depending on how long a cut it is, I'll use a circular saw or a jigsaw. Jigsaw works just fine, it just takes a little longer, but yeah, so cut this to shape. Fit it in the van, always cut bigger than what you think you're gonna need because you can always trim down, and we'll see how it goes. So now I'm just going to lay rocks on top to create some weight. You can use dumbbells if you have that. And just like that, we're finished. Might not be able to see it on the camera, but I'm dripping sweat. All right, guys, it is 72 hours later, and as you can see behind me, subfloor is done. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Everything adhered correctly. There's no weak spots. There's no squeaking, no rubbing up against the sheet metal. Everything turned out really well. I did want to address why I used Baltic birch ply as my subfloor choice instead of any other ply that would probably have saved me more money. Baltic birch is just in a class of its own, in my opinion, when it comes to strength and durability. It's resistant to cracking, splitting, and warping, which was important to me. But you can realistically use any other ply, and I think you'll be just fine. For me, I'm trying to honor a promise that I made myself when I left the island 3 years ago of this was going to be my dream van build, and I was going to use every possible highest quality material out there for everything I did on this build. So again, you do not need to use Baltic birch. This is just my wood of choice. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this episode for the Subfloor. If you like what you saw or you found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. We are a brand new channel to YouTube, so this would actually help us out a lot. But either way, thanks for being here and watching the video the whole way through. I'll catch you guys in the next one.